Hi guys, it's Isaac here, and just before we get into this video, I'd just like to apologise for not uploading for the last few weeks. We've been working on this documentary, and we thought we'd rather make this big video and bring it out to you all, rather than make little ones in between. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll hand over to Cameron to get into the video.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Northam Celtic podcast for another week of Celtic goodness. My name's Cameron, and this week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This week we're going to be doing a documentary video on the history of Northam Celtic as a football club, and over the course of this video we're going to be diving into the many anecdotes of players past and present, as well as looking at all the different kits that we've had over the years. So let's get into it and let's see what we can find out about this long-serving club.
The first point of call for my documentary was always going to be Google. Let's Google the club and see what comes up. I thought as we get past the social media stuff from recent times, we get into some of the older stuff at the club. One of the first things that came up was a Greenhun report from 2009 for some of the Sunday fixtures. We had a member of the club at the time that actually worked for that newspaper, so they were able to put some match reports up from that time. Looking at some of the results here, it shows us on there 2-0 win over the Brickies. Recognise some of the other team names, but some of them have definitely changed over the years, and it shows that how the league has developed and how new teams have come and old teams have gone. Another article that came up was one from 2001, titling "The Violent Times for Men in Black," referring to the referees, of course. So looking at this, I thought, how is this going to relate to us as a club? So I read the article. Last month, BT Research Reserves team manager Colin Goody gave up his own game to take charge for the Division 10 match against Northam Celtic reserves. He sent off 3 Celtic players, in which one allegedly struck him. So, violent times for 2001. Must have been a hell of a game for something like that to happen. But when looking for things from back in the early times of, this from early 2000s into the 90s, not a lot was there registered because people didn't have social media. A lot of the newspaper things were not used over that time, so it's interesting to see what I found. I also went into the Facebook page, the one that we had before the team sort of moved forward into this new era, and it detailed some old photos that I found. Here's one of the table from many, many years ago. You can tell by the layout of where we were in the table. This shows some of the teams there that we know and some of the teams that we don't. And it's really interesting to see how it has changed as through some of the older pictures that we looked at just a second ago. And also we have the picture here that I managed to find of the Dutch tour that we've talked about many times on the podcast, and also Ben will talk a little bit about when we have his interview. And this details a little bit more of what they had to go through to get this on board, and I'll let the guys for them to tell the story. But this one here shows how these type of things have happened, and I really think it's important that teams should want to get these tours going on again, even if it's within the country. Going forward into later times, I managed to find one of the tables from only a couple of seasons ago when we went on a really good run, winning 3 and only losing 2 and drawing 1. Really, really looking up for the season. That was a really good start. And here's a photo of us in our away kit at one of our cup games at Felixstowe. I remember scoring in this game. A really, really close affair with the Feathers, I think. And if you look over onto the far left, you can see Mick, one of our long-term serving players, who he's still signed on now, even going into the remarkable age that he is. And it's really important to have these kind of players within the squad. And it shows the commitment in the team that we really need and has made teams to fly.
To find out more about the last 20 years of the club, we have spoke to the long-serving player Ben Frost to find out more.
Right, so I'm here with a long-serving player of the club, Ben Frost. I'm also here with Dan. So we've just thought that to get an insight of this period of time at the club, I thought I'd just ask you a few questions to find out what it was like while you've been here.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
So what year did you join?
Good question. I was, I'm 35 this year, and I was 16 when I first joined Northam Celtic. So you're talking the best part of 19 years ago.
Crikey, so we're looking 2003, 2002, that sort of time, so early 2000 period. So like I say, that'll link on to what was the club like when you joined? How was it like? What was it set up, and what was it?
That was, I think there was was just the one team when I joined. There wasn't a reserve team at the time. And all group of lads. It was a mate of mine that my parents, well, it was a friend of my parents that said, "Hey, do you want to join?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll join." And I came along for, I think, the first friendly. It was a bit daunting and that when you first start, but yeah, enjoyed it thoroughly and haven't really looked back since, really.
Yeah, been here a bit of a while now, haven't you? I mean, you were the person that
Yeah.
got me to sign, so it was almost like a sort of role reverse there. You go from being picked up to bringing people in.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've managed the reserve team for a couple of seasons, a few years back, and obviously I haven't had as much involvement in the past year and that because of work and that. But yeah, I've liked being involved with the club and that, and it's been interesting people that I've met along the way and that have come and gone, or if you even gone into vets playing now and that. So yeah, it's been quite interesting.
It's been,
really,
yeah.
Seeing all the new faces coming for this season and that.
So who else was also there, like, now, that when you first started? Was there anyone that was at the club already that's still there now, or have most of the people sort of filtered out?
I think most of the people have filtered out, really. I mean, the only person that springs to mind is Mossy, obviously.
Yeah.
He's currently chairman.
Mick.
But this is an ongoing debate between me and him that I was there before him or he was there before me. But
He said about that.
That could be so close that we might have even joined in the same season. But I couldn't honestly tell. I can't honestly remember. I've gone out and got too drunk.
That's what it's all about, though. That's what it's all about.
But yeah, I mean, when I first joined, we were sponsored by the Woolpack.
So did you play in the green and white striped kit with the like leathery black numbers on the back?
Yeah. I think I played in that kit. I mean, like the older seasons, that I was always a striped kit. It wasn't even. I mean, we've even had a kit where the home kit was orange.
I think I've seen a photo of you in that kit. I think I put it on the Instagram page not long ago.
Yeah, there was a plain orange kit with black shorts and orange socks, and then I think after that we went back to green, and then literally about 6 seasons ago, we then had a Nike orange kit again.
Oh.
And that was quite random, but
yeah,
but I've always been a fan of a traditionalist of liking the green kits.
And it looks really nice as well, and it's quite it's a nice colour combination too.
Yeah, well, when you have a name like Celtic, you got to have green in it.
Exactly, you can't not have that. No. So obviously it was a lot different to what it was now. But how's Sunday League changed since you started? Obviously, it's a bit of a different animal than what it was in 2003. But
I'd say when I first joined, it was a lot more laid back, relaxed. I mean, Mossy might agree with me on this, but I thought it was better a few years ago because you could literally have a laugh with the guys in that, and you weren't so. I would say it's far more competitive now than it was back then. And like everyone would come back to the pub after, do a pub card, you have a laugh there, and then before you know it, it was like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon when you were heading home. So on that front, I'd say a lot of things have sort of changed on that, really.
Yeah, definitely. But like I say, what about like you say? So it's more competitive. I think I definitely agree with you that from stories that I've heard, and I almost wish we had that. I mean, we are looking to having actually a pub now to all go back to sort of this season, because I want to bring that back because it's really been missing that.
Yeah, that would be good. That, and it's getting the numbers back here as well half the time, because it's quite a struggle to get numbers back.
Yeah.
But looking at the dedication in the squad this season, what we're training on that, you stand good stead of doing stuff like that, really.
Definitely. Did you ever train at all when you first joined? Was there training sessions, or was it just a turn up?
And there was training sessions. that. I think we used to train on like a Wednesday. Still up on Gainsborough on the old weather pitch was where we used to train.
The ice skating rink, as we call it now.
Yeah, the ice skating rink. I mean, there was one time we'd done training, and there was a player called Macca who played for us at the time, and his dad something to do with football and done some coaching and that. So he came for a few sessions and that. I remember he made us do so many laps of the pitch, and that was quite hilarious, really, because there was 2 or 3 people after doing them laps that couldn't handle it. And
blowing
up everywhere.
Well, it's like a military thing. Well, like I say, in a few recent weeks, I've actually seen another team up when we're training doing the bleep test.
Yeah, we done that a few seasons, and surprisingly enough, that most of the players there must have came up on top of that.
Really? I wonder if that would be the same now.
He was the last person to finish, I think, and everyone else was absolutely bollocks. But yeah, that was quite an interesting one. That was. Mossy will say that's a walk in the park for him.
Yeah.
As you know, today he's into his long distance running.
Yeah, he is, as me and Dan found out this afternoon.
Never again.
Yeah.
Never again.
He's kind of like he's a secret one on that, because you look at him and you think, God, he ain't that fit, but he actually is. He's fitter than you think he is.
Yeah, definitely is.
So Ben, what's changed at Northam since you've been there, and also what's the same since you've been here?
What's the same I've been there? I'll start off with what's changed. I mean, I think I pretty much covered what's changed really. Is sort of like the competitiveness of it all really. But pitches have certainly come a long way since back then. The pitches used to be horrendous that we played on.
They still are now.
I mean, some of them are now, but Gainsborough, I mean, especially, that was horrendous back in the day compared to what it is now. They used to be bobbly as anything, because obviously the school that's next door wasn't there, and years ago we used to have the first pitch that you come across, and of course you get like all the players that are there on a Sunday walk across our pitch, so you can imagine the state of it. It was cut up. There was probably more mud on it than there was grass back then.
It's a bit like that entrance into Gainsborough as it is now. As you go past the AstroTurf, there's that little opening, and it's just like a muddy puddle. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's that side of things. I'll tell you what, we used to have quite a good team, like years ago, and that with defenders and that. But one thing that we did have back then was an older generation of players there.
Oh, okay.
Like, we had loads of players that were sort of like mid-20s to mid-30s playing for us then, really. They were all committed in that, and half of them were quite friendly and that. And well, they're all friendly. Everyone's been friendly that I've played with there, really. But yeah, I would say that is another thing that's sort of changed. There is the age category of players. We've got a far more younger squad these days than what we did back then. Because I think half the trouble was back then you couldn't get youngsters to come in and play. But now,
why do you think that was?
I don't know. I think it was because they found it too daunting for them when they first came. I mean, I found it daunting for me when I first signed and that at 16 and that. It is when you're playing against full-grown adults and that are quite willing to push you off the ball and go in 2-footed and all the rest of it. But half of it is just standing your own and having confidence in your ability, really. But going on to the things that haven't really changed, I'd say the odd argument inside the squad when you're playing a game hasn't changed. The refereeing standard hasn't changed. But it's just stuff like that. But they're all things that you get in football anyway. I've never really had a problem with referees or anything like that. Or
As long as you don't assault them, it's fine.
Oh yeah, there is that. There was an incident years ago where a referee sent off one of our players, and then our goalkeeper at the time decided to run up to the referee, shout at him, and then headbutt him.
Typical
He
Sunday.
got sent off, and he also got banned for 3 years as well.
Flipping hell.
So yeah, needless to say, he didn't play for us again after.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. bit of a fuggery though. So yeah, so like
I mean, I was unfortunate enough not to be there for that game because I would have quite liked to witness that.
Oh, there are some. Well, there, like I say, you kind of there's some things that do happen, and you think, oh, I can't believe I've missed that. There's incidents that's happened since I've been there, and like, there's some that have been talked about that I'm like, I just wish I was there to see it.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, it wasn't too long ago as well. We had a really good quality side, and Mossy would tell you this. I think I was a chap called Adam Smythe. He
Yeah, I remember him.
Team and they got promotion with that team, and I think they finished mid-table the following season.
That's not bad.
So they had a good season. There were some good players in there as well. Some really good players.
Yeah, I think I played with the back end of them when I first joined, when they were getting in their sort of older years.
Yeah, you probably know a few of them.
Yeah, I remember. We were talking to Mossy about it today, sort of saying like the Granties and I'm trying to think.
I can't remember the centre midfielder that played, Jack Parker. He was quality.
I can remember.
He played rugby as well, so you can imagine what he was an absolute animal.
Just a unit. Yeah, multiple sports. So, like I say, so it seems that you've witnessed quite a bit over the sort of 19 years that you've been here, and seen it sort of change. So, what's your most memorable moment for Northam over your time here?
My most memorable moment was probably the tour of Amsterdam that we went on.
You went on that? Did you? You actually went to that one?
Yeah. We hired the Peterborough United coach.
Yeah. Mossy told us about that. Yeah, that must have been so good.
Yeah, I mean, we all woke up. We had to meet at the Woolpack for something like 7:30 in the morning.
That's early for a lot of Sunday footballers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember how old I was now when I went on that trip. I think I was like 19 or something, 19, 20 or something. And my old man dropped me off with a roller, and he was like, yeah, be careful and that, look after yourself. I was like, yeah, no worries. Get on the coach, and there was, I don't know if he was the chairman at the time or the treasurer, James Hamilton. And he was there with a crate of 20. Here, mate, have one of these. I was like, all right, let's get on it then. And we all got on the coach, drove to Harwich, got the ferry across and that. And I think by the time we got there, we must have had quite a bit to drink. And we got there to the hotel, put the bags down, went to the downstairs bar, had another drink. Then we're like, all right, let's head out and get something to eat. So we went and got something to eat. And then headed to the lovely red light district.
and Mossy told us about that story that happened to us.
Yeah, there's many stories behind it, but I won't get too into it because, as the ruling goes, what goes on tour stays on tour.
Exactly, that's what Mossy said. He said the exact same thing.
We had the game against this team the following day, and we were so worse for wear. It was unreal. But it was still a competitive game and that, but the quality had some quality players in there. When you play against the Dutch team, there's nothing like it really. Half of them looked as though they were semi-professional half the time. It was quite an unreal game, but still it was all good fun and that. And we then went out the following night again. So
well, while you're there, you might as well.
yeah, but no, that was a good weekend. I mean, that was cost effective as well for a group of lads that went to that, because there was quite a big group of us. I can't remember if we actually played 2 matches out there or 1 in the end, but no, that was good fun, good weekend away. Everyone had a laugh, and they sort of built up team morale as well. So we done that going into, I think that was a pre-season, so we done that going into the season. So.
That's brilliant. I mean, we talked about it today with Mossy about potentially doing one in the country, like, as like a sort of start-up one again to sort of get us going again, go up north or something, which would be quite nice to do. it's definitely something that would be quite good fun.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be good fun up north and that, doing that. Like
Yeah.
Newcastle would be a good shout.
Yeah.
I said
Something
that.
like that.
Yeah, you said Newcastle, didn't you? That'd be good. But yeah.
The thing is, Newcastle's a cracking night out as well.
Yeah, that's the crucial part of it. But brilliant. But thank you very much, Ben, for giving us this insight into the sort of the last 20 years of the club. Really, it's been interesting to see how it's changed. I mean, it's nice for players like myself. I can, from my personal point of view, joining from sort of this sort of end of that era. It's nice to kind of hear what it was like.
I honestly couldn't tell you when the club was first established, because it goes back beyond me, and even the people that I've spoken to, who was chairman in charge when I first joined, even he couldn't tell me how far it went back, because there was someone before him.
Yeah, so it's
like another 10 plus years on him, so it's like I couldn't tell you the year that was established and that, but I'm sure there's something.
But I am determined to find out. I am determined to find out when it was formed, and then that'll be.
But I mean, we're one of the, or even the league know it, but we're one of the longest running Sunday League teams that there are in all divisions.
Yeah.
I think there's us and one other team that have been running for quite a long time, but I can't remember what they are.
And it's important to keep that going as a legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mossy's done a stand-up job of like keeping things together and keeping things moving and that for this long, because he's been chairman for God knows how long now. I think 10 years.
Yeah.
Like that.
So he's done it for a while.
Probably even longer than that, to be honest. And somehow every year we manage to get the players signed on and all the rest of it. I mean, I know what it was like as well, because I had to do quite a bit of it a few seasons ago. I was like manager, treasurer, and doing all the paperwork and that. And there's a lot of work behind it, behind closed doors, that people don't see and that. But when you get a good team playing together and that week in, week out, and everyone's turning up and going to train and that, is worth a while.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
But no, thank you very much for
You can see that from where you are this season and that, and you see it all come together.
Yeah, and it's all worth it in the long run to do so. So it's great to see. But definitely. Thanks for coming on, Ben, and talking to us about this. It's great to get your side. We're going to speak to a couple of other members, like Mick and Mossy as well, and get their stories as well and put it all together. So thank you very much for coming on for us. After listening to Ben's recollection of the last 20 years, I thought I needed to also revisit our interview with Mossy to find out a little bit more about some of the areas of the club. Looking back at some of the things that he said at the beginning of his podcast gives us another really interesting visit into what it was like as a club.
In hindsight, looking back, I joined Sunday football at a time when it really was a different era and culturally very different. I don't want to sound like the typical old bloke of the team. I know we've got a couple of them. Maybe Mickey's the main old bloke of the team. Not to sound like the old bloke. No, the old days were the best, but I wouldn't say that it was the best, but they were different. Sunday football, it really was. It was your Sunday. It wasn't a couple of hours on Sunday morning. It was your day. You would turn up, you'd play. The whole family would go back to the pub, and we'd spend the rest of the day there. So. Culturally, that's just how it was, and there were also two leagues, Sunday leagues running. There was the licensed trade league, and then there was the ISFL as it is now. And eventually, after a few seasons, the licensed trade league folded, and we also had an influx of teams into the ISFL, which was then the only Sunday football league around Ipswich. Back in the day, we had, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying we had like a Premier Division and 9 divisions beneath
Whoa!
All of which had an absolute abundance of teams in them, and as long as I could remember back in the day, for many years we had 2 teams. Up until quite recently, we've had 2 teams, as you may well know.
Yeah.
Culturally very different. But ultimately, it's about the 90 minutes. It's all about the playing, and then that's one thing. But then, obviously, again, for me, not being very good at football, certainly in the early year or two, I was quite anxious about the social side of it, getting back to the pub and having a laugh and a few beers.
That's definitely the side that I think I'd like to bring back more, because I think that's a really important part of the team, is the social side of it as well, especially at this level. I think we definitely need to try and get that back this year. I think try and find a home, as it were, as a pub. We need a place, don't we, to kind of re-resonate all of that kind of old feelings.
We do. I mean, it's something historically that we have generally always had. But for the last few years we have struggled to find anywhere to call home. We found pubs that we've sort of attached ourselves to, but again, that sounds like I'm harking back to the old days. But back in the day, we were sponsored by the Woolpack public house in Ipswich for many years, and we became very, very close to the landlord and landlady there, and they would happily write us a cheque for £500 at the start of every season. They would supply us with food after the game. Without question, we would host barbecues as fundraisers for the club. It was just so easy and so well supported, and there was no effort involved, because people just understood it's what you did when you were part of Sunday football. You would chip in and you would contribute, socially, financially, and in every way to the club.
It's amazing to hear, and like I say, I feel like there's still aspects of that, but it would be good to have some of it back.
We also spoke to club legend Mick Warwick for him to reminisce on his time over the years at the club.
Hello, Mick Warwick here. Today I've been asked to answer 3 questions, so here we go. Obviously myself, I joined the club in 2004, I believe, at the age of 46. I hope you're all going to be playing at 46 or more. From there I left Finchley Athletic, who actually folded at the time, but I'd actually been told that I'd made over 315 appearances for them, so that was quite an achievement. Going on for Finchley, I mean, obviously I reckon I've played for 14 seasons, played over 300 games, I should imagine, because 14 seasons times 22 games then, and all the cup games comes to about 340 odd, so I hardly ever missed a game. Never a brilliant prolific goal scorer, scoring around about 12-15 goals, mostly when we head from corners, so that was that. The second question I've been asked is how things have changed the most. Obviously when I joined Northam Celtic, there were 120 teams in over 12 divisions, so a lot different to today. A lot of competition. We all knew each other. We were all playing each other at the same time. Teams like Trinity and that we got to know, and other teams we got to know. So, some really friendly battles out there. The first team, Northam Celtic, had 2 teams. The first team, I think, were in Division 6, and I believe the reserves were in about Division 10. We used to have our squads actually printed in the paper on a Friday night, which was interesting, because you'd look at the paper on a Friday night and see whether you were actually picked for in the squad or not. Mainly you were, because being a reserve team, you were mainly down to the bare bones. Changes to Northam Celtic. Obviously the kit's changed a few times. I obviously preferred the green and white hoops. That was just my personal choice. But I would say another thing was the ages of the players. We have a lot more younger players now than we did when I first started, mainly due to players being servants to long servants to the club. We had a lot of over 30 players then. I didn't feel so old then, but we had a lot of people who stayed for a lot of seasons. Some went for the odd season, but they usually came back. And it was a very friendly, set-up between the 2 teams. There was no first team here or reserves there. I mean, I can actually remember playing for the first team myself on a few occasions. So, if you were having good enough spells, you'd get picked for the first team, and that's how it was on merit. And if you weren't doing very good in the first team, you would be dropped to reserves, and that happened a few times as well. One of the good things about the Northam Celtic as well was when we had the opportunity to play first teamers in reserve games, which all teams have to do, we didn't always do it because most weeks, the reserve team people were there, whether we were winning or not, they enjoyed it. And the last thing they wanted to do would be pushed out by first teamers who were trying to just, improve the game, to improve the team on the day, I suppose. But that's not what it's all about, really. It's all about giving everybody a game, and when it's your team, whether you're playing the first or reserves, you should be playing and not be replaced by anybody else. I've also been asked about managing the reserve side, which I believe I did for 2 seasons, quite a few years ago now, probably 4 or 5 years after I joined Northam Celtic. Always a difficult job when you got when you're reserve team manager, because you get several call-offs from the first team. They would obviously pinch the reserve team players, and obviously they're going to pinch the best. So you were left with the bare bones. I mean, I can remember playing in a game once with just the 9 men, and everybody put the shift in, and we got beat heavily, but not as much as you would think, to be honest. A game that sticks out for me was we went to Brantham once. They were top of the league, hadn't lost a game all season. We were sort of, close to the bottom, I believe. We went there with 10 men. We were 1-0 up at half time. I think we lost the game 3-1. But, that's the sort of thing that Northam Celtic spirit was. We kept going whatever the scores. We did, as reserve team manager, I got us through to the Reserve Cup final. It was quite an achievement. There was quite a few reserve teams in them days, and there was quite a few A teams as well, which were also included in the Reserve Cup finals, or Reserve Cup. Unfortunately, we got to the final, but we came across a very strong Capel A side. As I said, we were probably in Division 10, being the reserve side. Capel were a very good side at the time. Probably first team was in the Premier. The reserves were probably in Division 1 or 2, and they had a third team, which was the A team, which I believe was in Division 5 or 6. So, to be in our final playing against a Division 5 or 6 team, we were certainly up against it. And on the day, I think we lost about 5-1. But, the lads give it all again. We enjoyed the day. We all got our runners-up medals. And that was quite an achievement, really, But coming back to the players and reserves, as I said, everybody gave their bit. There was 1 or 2 outstanding players in the reserves that wanted to play for the reserves all the time. But we were, mainly bound to the bear in 10 or 11 each week because of call-offs from both sides, really. And that's all I've got to say about it, really. Northam Celtic. It's a shame I've had to hang my boots up. I was over the moon scoring that last the penalty in my last ever game, and I like to call it a day from there, I suppose. So thank you and bye.
After speaking to Mick and the other guys at the club, I thought it's time to look at the different kits over the years to work out what they've been like to wear and what they looked like. Here we go. Right, so here we have the kits of the club over the last sort of 20 years or so. So we'll start off with the first one. I've managed to get hold of some of these. I'm not entirely sure on the exact date, but I can kind of have a rough estimate of what point it is. I've also got Dan here with me, so Dan, just shout into the lads.
Hello.
He's here too, so we thought we'd bring him in as well. So the first one we've got here, I believe, is from the late 90s to the early 2000s. So this is the one that they went on the different tours into Europe, so the Dutch tour, and I think there was another one to Belgium. I think this was the kit used, so I really like this one because it's got a really nice classic design. It's got the badge in the centre, which is where I took the inspiration for the current kits that we use. Sponsored by the Woolpack, as Mossy talked about in his podcast, if you go back and watch that. And this is a very, very typical retro shirt. Even the numbers on the back you can see, it's almost a bit like a leathery texture to put on, but I really like the cross-striped pattern, and it really sets it nicely. I think we still have some of the shorts of this brand, of this kit, to use, but this is one of my favourite jerseys, and it's definitely something that I would have liked to have worn if I was at the club during that time. But I would estimate probably 98 to about 2005-06 sort of time. That's the sort of time that I imagine, maybe even a bit further than that. So I'm just going to chuck this over to Dan. He'll stick that on in a minute, and he'll give us a little demonstration. Moving on to kit number 2. So this is after this kit, so the sort of mid 2000s. But before we move on to that, Dan has come in to show us an on-body shot. Come and stand in the shot. You're in it. There we go. So this is the kit. I'll move out so Dan can give us a little twirl. He's a beautiful young man. There we go, wearing the shirt. So they actually fit quite nicely. But
yes, it's very nice. Apart from I'm not a huge fan of these bits because they don't really come up your arm very far.
Yeah.
But for out of a 10, I reckon it's probably a good 8.
yeah, it's in good nick as well.
It's in very good nick. It's in good, comfortable nick, and the number feels quite cool as well. Not that really matters.
No, but it's always because normally the textures on the normal kits are the ones with the sort of like that are just printed on, whereas that's actually got a bit of layer to it, hasn't it?
And as you can tell, they used to have a nice little pub sponsor,
which we're looking for. We're
Yes.
still looking for a sponsor.
the old badge, which is nice. And like you
Got a
say,
plastic
it being
badge.
in the middle makes it look a lot sort of authentic and
It does, doesn't it? It's
smarter.
that retro feel, isn't it? Which is what I went for on the new design. So let's do a swap and then spin back in, and I'm back in shot. So next shirt has had a bit of a resurgence over the recent year. So this shirt here was the kit that was put in place after the last one. So this one I would estimate would be from sort of mid 2000s to about probably to the late 2000s. So this kit was used from probably 2007 or 8 to about, to 2018. So it had a long-standing kit. But it did have a resurgence last year because of a change of kit that we had. So this kit, again, it means a lot to me because it's the first kit that I ever played in. Very, very basic, embroidered badge, same style badge as the old kit. And I added that up in the top corner, really, really nice to wear. I think the only issue with these is that they were all sort of one size, so these were all XL, so some of the smaller sized lads were struggling with the size of the kits. But number 7, I did wear this shirt actually. This was the one that I wore in the later years playing for Northam Celtic. Again, it's a nice jersey. I think it's just this one's not weathered as much as the old one. This one's really kind of taken its toll over the years. We'll stick that to Dan to give it a try on. While he's doing that, you can just have a little quick look at the away shirt that's up here as well. This is my favourite jersey, but we'll stick over to Dan, so we'll do a little swap again. So what do you think about that one then, Dan?
Well, we wore it last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's very comfortable. Retro, someone's cut the arm off on this side. Looks like it.
It does look like it, doesn't it? I think that was a short sleeve one.
But like you say, it's extra large. It fits the bigger lads, alright, like me and Isaac.
Yeah, but yeah,
happy to admit that.
No, yes, definitely.
It's a very nice. It's a very good
Yeah.
fit. And
The only thing I don't like about it is the numbers are quite small on the back.
they are
Like they look a bit out of place, and they always
over
have
sort of the amount of time they've been washed.
Yeah, well, they like I say, it's
losing.
It's a good plus 10 years, 10-year size kit.
But it's a good kit to play in, especially like if it rains, it doesn't stick to you. That you'll find out a bit more about what we mean when we go into more detail on other kits.
It's definitely, that one's a nice one. So
I'll jump you back to Isaac.
Let's swip it across. Here we go. Right, back in shot again. So this is my personal favourite kit. This is the away shirt from that same period of time. The only problem was in the latter years we did lose a lot of this kit, so it meant that we didn't have it available to use. But thank goodness, Mossy got us another blue kit that we use, and it has been adapted now to what we use as our current kit. But this shirt, made by Hummel, all embroidered shirt, really, really comfortable. Loved it. The shorts were a bit funny with the kit. They had the lining in them, the white lining inside the shorts.
Like swimming trunks.
Yeah, horrible. I hated wearing them. But apart from that, this is why it means so much to me, the number on the back. For some reason, these kits had the biggest numbers on the back of their kits. We don't know why. There even was like a gunshot hole in one of them on like number 47. And for some reason they had really big numbers. And this shirt and this number is the one that I used to wear when I first started playing. So 42 is why I have the number 42 now. Such an important number, and it was the number of the beast midfielder of Yaya Toure. So it was a beautiful kit. But this, like I say, is one of my favourite kits that we have worn. Dan, give us another, stick that on. Again, having another look at the next one that's coming up from our away and home season. Right, let's do a swap with Dan again. Here he goes, into shot, our male model. What a man.
Oh, it's very comfortable.
This is probably the first time you've worn this.
Yes, I've never seen this until today.
It's a well nice kit.
But I do like I like the stitching. I prefer the stitching over sort of the
printing, yeah.
Because I feel like it gives it a bit more.
The only issue with having printed on is it's so expensive, especially when you don't have a sponsor. It's so expensive to have embroidery done, whereas printing is so much cheaper. But yeah, it honestly just does depend.
I do like the the sides a lot as well.
It's very much like the Las Palmas goalkeeper shirt from this last season. They were made by Hummel, so that's why that.
It is a nice kit.
Nice fit in it.
I'd probably give this this is probably an 8.5.
Yeah, this is a 10 for me because of what it means to me. But that's
which is completely fair enough.
Yeah,
it's a very good.
I forget how nice it is. I haven't seen it in so long. Such a nice kit. Right, yeah, we do need some Hummels. Right, so. Going on to the 18-19 season, this was a one season only kit. So we had this green striped kit. It was a nice one. The only issue with it was that it got absorbed so much in the rain, didn't it? You wore it and the rain absorbed into it so much. Again, this is when I was playing sort of attacking midfield, so I did have the number 7 and I had both kits of that. But it was very much made, like I say, we'll reiterate that it does say size medium in there for a Sunday team, which was a big issue because a lot of us are not size medium, especially myself. So it was almost like being a sausage in a casing wearing this one, which was not fun, and especially when it was wet. And the shorts were a similar material, so it was a bit funny in that aspect. But this was the first season you joined as well, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah. So this was the first kit I actually wore when I signed on. I will reiterate, I'm not a size medium. So,
no, I don't think anyone is. Well, actually, none of them.
It is a nice, it's quite nice, but the only issue was when it rains, it literally sticks to you. You don't really want to wear it.
It felt a bit more modern though. Out of the kits that we've had, it is the most modern, isn't it?
Yes, it is modern. Like the colour scheme's quite nice, like the different greens I do.
Yeah, it does make me almost want to have a migraine looking at it.
But but it's the same as this one. It's the same type as this, obviously.
Yeah.
The only issue with this one, sorry, I'm stealing your
No, it's
stuff.
fine. You go for it, man.
But when you play in the rain and the dirt in this, you don't want to wash it because, as you can tell, it's very white.
You don't want to play in
a few stains on it.
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, when you play in the white shirt, do you want to turn it over, Dan? So it's a little bit. I mean, it's almost a Real Madrid-esque kit. I really liked this one, but the shame was because it was white. It was so hard to keep clean. I think Mossy did a slide tackle in it and in one of the kits, and it never came out. Look, you can still see, like to the right of the number 7, there's still some mud marks that just will not come out.
But again, it is a nice. It
is a nice jersey. The colours are nice. It's just not feasible in this country. That is the thing, isn't it? Because it's too wet.
Yes,
I
will hand you back over and I will take this away.
Have a little try on for that one. Yeah, one of our No, so one of the. I'd probably give these just because of the fact that it was so hard to play in when it was wet, and most of the season it was wet. So it ended up. I probably would give that more of a 6. I mean, the design's nice, but it was just the actual wearability was not feasible. I can judge by your face, Dan, that it is.
Yes,
it is a tight fit, especially being white as well.
Yes, but
it doesn't show off all the best angles.
No, but it is nice. If it was a bit size bigger, a few size bigger for me.
Yeah, I think I needed a.
But if they did have the odd size that was like extra large.
Yeah, well, you could have bought it your own.
It was very rare. You could have got that. Yeah, I reckon. So, but
I remember.
I would probably rate this the same as you, about a 6.5, probably pushing it, just because of mainly when it rains. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to wear. It's a nightmare to clean. It's just not fun at all. The shorts are fine though.
Yeah, it's definitely. The shorts were the similar material, weren't they?
I will let you join back in.
I will swap back in again. But apologies if you can hear any background noises. The effect of living in a built-up area for Dad is that there is people outside. But we shall continue. Hopefully you shan't pick it up. Right, moving on to the current season's kit that we are using for the forthcoming future and the bits of last season. So we took the green kit. Originally, we had the blue kit first. So the blue kit was what we had originally based. So when we went to get the green kit, we had to use the same Stano brand. Stano's a brilliant brand because of the fact that it's a very long-standing brand, and the kits I found were really comfortable, really, really nice to wear. And that way, it meant that it was a bit more breathable on the pitch. The badge design, which was designed by Ben Frost, one of our long-serving players, been at the club for 19 years. You'll have heard from him in this video about his parts of the club too. But the badge is very, very retro. As Cam just described in one of our podcasts, it was like the Inter Milan badge down the centre, which I agree, it's much more cleaner and it has a modern take on a old-fashioned style of kit, which I really like. Again, and the numbers on the back of the home shirt are done in a little different style, which was really nice to see. So they're in a more European style with the 4 rather than being the old-fashioned style 4, a bit more of a sleeker look. This is definitely one of my favourite jerseys. Again, it's just missing, we need a sponsor on the front there that would be brilliant for it. But yeah, one of my favourite shirts, definitely much more comfortable than some of the other previous ones. Again, Dan slung that on quickly. Blimey, right? We'll do a swap then.
Yes. Well, it's very this is definitely up there with the blue one for me
it's
because
quality, isn't it?
just because it's the right size. It's a nice
That's,
sort of,
it's so important, isn't it?
It's a nice fabric as well. As weird as that sort of sounds,
No, but that's right, isn't
It's
it?
just
Yeah.
nice to sort of and the numbers all good. Everything's just really comfortable. Like you're saying, all it's missing is like that sponsor.
It just needs it on
Just
it,
needs a
doesn't it?
sponsor or some Premier League badges.
Yeah, that's it. When we get that far.
Once
yeah,
we built
no,
our own stadium, as Cameron would say.
Yes.
But I'd probably give this a 9.
Yeah, I agree.
The only one thing I'd change, but like you say, it's only down to obviously the printing and all that. That'd be nice if it was
If we could have embroidered that, it would have been
That's
great.
only my.
But it would have cost another 60-70 quid to do.
Yes, which is a bit too much for a Sunday League team with vast that.
Unless you have a sponsor, that's the difference, isn't it? It makes
Yes.
all the difference in football.
We're not hinting we want a sponsor.
Yeah,
I
not at
promise.
all. But it's basic and it does the job, doesn't it? And it's very classic, and I think that's what I wanted.
And we wore some of these near the end of last season.
Yeah, these ones we
because I
started to wear.
reiterate, wearing a few that were made last season.
Yeah, we definitely had some new
Which is
ones
quite
come
nice.
in. So yeah, that's brilliant. Let's do on to the final shirt, which is our newest addition to the shirt collection, is the adapted version of our away shirt. When we had this shirt bought in, it didn't have the badge on. So what we had was just a plain blue shirt with the numbers on the back, which is great, but you don't have a sense of identity, and I thought it's really important that you have a badge on to show who you are. And the royal gold on this blue kit really stands out really nicely, and it's really nice to look at. And again, the design from the badge that Ben had done, just tinted gold, really makes it look very special and really sort of stands out. Again, with that classic badge down the middle from the first kit from the late 90s and early 2000s. Really, really nice kit with the basic numbers on the back for this one because it's what we had on the other kit. So again, number 42, as you can see, this is my shirt, but clean shirt, really, really nice. Beautiful texture, same as the other shirt. Pass it over to Dan to give us a demonstration, but it's definitely the kits that we've had. It's so much easier to play in and wear, I find. It's one of them kits that you have to really wear to find out how it is, and I know a lot of the players have bought some of their own ones ready for this season, so we'll...
Yes,
it
is. It's like we haven't really played when it's rained in this kit, so it looks like it's going to be like affected when it rains.
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean.
For some reason, I don't think we've played in it in the rain. But even if we do, I think it doesn't bounce off. It's going to get a bit tighter.
Yeah.
But not as bad. But again, it's just a really nice, well looked kit with like the retro
I really
badge.
like the colours on it. It's really nice, isn't it?
It's very good.
I mean, you can really see how the badge and the kits have developed over the years. I mean, especially on the numbers, how they've changed to printing.
It's like
and
say if I did that, like it's just like you say, it's just a generic blue top. With the actual badge up being printed, it makes it look more
individual, doesn't it? It's your kit, isn't it? It shows who you are. But
exactly.
No, it's really
like
nice. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a substitution again. Move ourselves in. So as you've seen, those are our current kits that we have and that we've used over the years. It's really given us an insight, and it helped decide what the kits we wanted for this season and the coming 4 seasons. As we are where we are, we can't afford to change a kit every year, as most Sunday teams will know. So it's important you have a sturdy design, a kit that will last and stand the length of time. As you can see by the green shirt that we wore last season, not from the current ones we made, they have stood for over almost 10, 12 years. So it's a really important part of the style. So that has given us a little bit of an insight into the kits and shows us a little bit more of the history. After doing some more research and speaking to Ben Frost in his interview and looking back over the kit video, I found this photo that I'd recently posted on the Instagram page that I forgot that I had. And this shows the kit from 2002. So Ben was also talking about this kit, which you can see a little circle of him there in the corner. This shows that this kit was actually before the striped one across that I showed in the kit video. So this gives us a bit more of an estimation of when these kits were used. So if this one was probably 2002 and then before that, that means that the striped kit would have been in between that and to the late 2000s, that was then used for the green kit that we used last season. So this gives us a bit more of a rough sort of time scale of where the kits were used. After listening to both Mossy's and Ben's stories, it really gives us an insight to correlate what has happened over the last 20 years. Both of those stories show that it aligns with what's happened, and it gives us a little bit of information about how the club's been, what the league's been like. That way it shows us how it's changed over the years and what things have stayed the same, as Ben told us about. But going back a little bit further into the club is a bit harder, because as we found out from our recent findings at the beginning of the documentary, that there isn't much that was recorded back in those days. So going back further, you're going to have to find out really from word of mouth rather than any information online. So this part was always going to be tricky. So looking back at the evidence that we've recovered from this documentary, we can document from the current year of 2020 back to at least 2001 from the first interviews that we've had from Ben and from Mossy. So this shows that we could at least go there, but we need to go further back than that. So where can this rabbit hole lead? How far back can this club go? And that is the big question. So what I managed to do was, after speaking to our club chairman Mossy, he was able to get in touch with someone who was at the club from at least 40 years ago, who was currently the secretary there. I believe his name was Fred. Getting hold of him was quite difficult for this because now he's a bit of an old boy, bless him. But apparently they are still having reunions and still meeting up from the team at that time. So we can at least now document the club back to the 1980s. But can it go further back than that? If he was then handed down the club, it is possibly believed that this club could have gone back to the 1960s. So it just goes to show how long-standing this club has been. But if we can document back to the 80s, it shows it could go further. But again, back then would have been a time where it wouldn't have been recorded. So we've managed to gather a little bit more of information about what has happened over the last 20, 40 years at this club, and found out that it does go back further than we thought.
Thank you everybody for watching this Northam Celtic documentary. If you found this video very interesting, if you keep in tune, we'll have more on Celtic content coming your direction. But in the meantime, if you have any queries or questions, leave them in the description down below. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and on behalf of Isaac and Dan, and we'll be seeing you next time.